What's going on YouTube? It's Brody with Couch Potato Hoops bringing you another video, and it is finally December, which means it's finally NBA trade season.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to report a trade.
Now, with that said, we've got a Bleacher Report article that we're going to be going through together today. It is NBA trade block big board with deals for top 10 targets. Now, on this homepage, I see Anthony Davis,
Unibrow,
and LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball is a guy that's been in trade talks over the past 3 years. And then Anthony Davis is obviously somebody whose name breeds a lot of controversy because he also traded for Luka Doncic in his prime, which is a part of one of the largest and most lopsided trades that we've ever seen. And obviously the Dallas Mavericks might be ready to rid themselves of his name. A couple of other names that I think could be on here. We got Domantas Sabonis of the Sacramento Kings. A lot of people have been kind of theorizing them moving on from him and blowing it up. I could also see Trae Young, as well as Ja Morant is another guard that I could see moving on to another team, especially because of controversy over there in Memphis. Any Brooklyn Nets player seems to be, other than the young guys, seems to be up for grabs, even though they've been really exciting as of late. But with that said, let's just scroll down below and see what we find. Okay, great. So the first name that we have is hopefully the least exciting name, and that's Jonathan Kuminga. Jonathan Kuminga is kind of like LaMelo, where his name has been in trade talks over the past 3 years. And he is, gosh, what do they even want for him? Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, Buddy Hield, and 2 first-round picks for Michael Porter Jr. Oh my gosh. Okay, that's a little bit rich for my blood right off the bat. And maybe I'm overhyping Jonathan Kuminga. He hasn't been having an amazing season or anything, but I'll be honest, I want the trade to happen just because I want to be done talking about Jonathan Kuminga, and because Steph needs all the help he can. I'm team buy into the Steph timeline because Steph is the only shot at a superstar that you have, and you need a superstar. You need a guy that can be a top 10, top 5 player to win a championship, and right now you have that, but you won't when he's gone. So, don't buy into Jonathan Kuminga. Buy into who you have now and the shot you have at winning now, And I get Steph is old. You want to look out for the future. You kind of want to do, you can't, but you kind of want to do what every other team's done, where it's oh, I have this superstar. Let me trade him for assets so that we're transitioning into a beautiful place. But your fan base will hate you if you ever trade Steph Curry outside of him requesting. And I don't think Steph would damage his legacy like that, because genuinely I don't see him having another roster that's ready to fully contend for a championship. But yeah, with that said, I don't love that idea, and I don't necessarily love I like the fit of Michael Porter Jr. He comes off of screens, he hits threes, he does everything you want out of the Warriors system, but I don't know I think they're giving a bit much for him. Next, Nick Claxton. I don't have a lot to say about Nick Claxton other than the Boston Celtics would be a good spot for him to land. Anthony Simons has been really fun for them. He's looked like, Dame Jr. ever since he stepped on the court. It's really sad that he's not getting to participate with Damian Lillard in Portland. But Nick Claxton is another name that ever since the big three in Brooklyn of Harden, Kyrie, and KD broke up, he's just been in trade talks for a while now. Sorry, trying to improve my lighting as much as I can. So yeah, he's been in trade talks for a while now, and he would look excellent on a lot of teams. I think he would increase the defensive floor of a lot of teams, and he's being asked to do a little bit much on the offensive end in Brooklyn, but I think they're just trying to have fun with it over there. And he's actually had a couple of games where he's looked so interesting handling the ball, being kind of a playmaking hub, and doing a little bit more offensively than we thought he was initially capable of. So I could definitely see I could see a team, that wants to shake things up, trade for him, and try to get just a different look at the 5 spot. I also just think he is a super phenomenal defender, and he's been that way for a while now. And now maybe he's maturing into more of a talent than we thought. And I love his progression story. Him going to the Celtics would be great for him. The Boston Celtics, if they're buying into a future, I could see this being a good move for them just because, okay, we have Jason Tatum coming back. We don't need Anthony Simons' offense long term. But at the same time, you might still run into some CBA issues because Claxton's contract's ridiculous. It's just like Kristaps, I'm pretty sure, that like $30 million a year range that is really going to gunk up the works if you're trying to build out a core or build around your core. So yeah, it's kind of one of those issues where I think if you're just looking for a defensive option, you could probably search around the league and find somebody that would fit what you need for cheaper, like a Walker Kessler, even though I think they should hold on to Walker Kessler over there in the Jazz. I just think that you might have to look for a cheaper option. Maybe even like Daniel Gafford or something like that. But, yeah, I don't know. That's my take on it. It's a good move. It improves their floor, but it's not necessarily like, oh my gosh. Ja Morant, the diva himself. It's funny enough because Claxton's a guy that was theorized to go to Memphis for so long before they got Edie and all that. And it looked like a beautiful idea, and it looked like he would kind of fit that personality and the vibe and the need of a guy that can be a lockdown 5 and stuff like that. But obviously there's been a lot of turmoil over in Memphis, and it is all centered around this guy, Ja Morant. They're saying the Toronto Raptors, yes, let's muck up that spacing over there in Toronto a lot more. That sounds absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, so they're saying trade, oh my gosh, quickly, Grady Dick, and 2 first-round picks for Ja Morant. This is definitely like we're betting on his change of scenery, making him great again. And I don't know if I necessarily would want to buy into a guy and like put him back in a position where he's the guy, because and you're giving up like 2 important spacers on your team that kind of help all the other guys function properly. So I just think you kind of create a lot of problems for yourself. You solve the superstar problem. You've got a guy that can potentially get back to that superstar level, which is excellent. But you also like lose out on shooting, you muck up spacing, and you totally shift how you've been playing. You kind of move away from this more egalitarian and defensive approach to then going to a more offensive-minded thing. And honestly, then you would just kind of feel like the Memphis Grizzlies of the North now. And I don't think you necessarily like. I mean, you have a impressive defensive 4. You have more shot creating. You have more shot creating than Memphis does, but I don't think I like it. I don't think it's the best move for them personally, and I don't think Ja Morant going anywhere else solves his problems. I think he kind of needs to confront some of the issues that he's been like just blown off. I don't really like that, and I don't love Ja Morant honestly. His mentality has been awful. We got Daniel Gafford. I was just talking about him earlier with the Celtics. They're saying the Lakers, which would be fine. I honestly don't think he does much for them. I think that obviously Hayes is not a great option, but he's also a guy that can soak up 10 to 15 regular season minutes and then like 5 to 12 postseason minutes, and I think he can do that just fine. The issue that you run into with Hayes is that he is foul heavy, but the thing is Gafford isn't like some dominant defender. He's a really good offensive big and super aggressive on the glass. And I love that. And I love the pairing of him and Luka. Like, that was so fun. And, like, Gafford is just like a man, and I love that. I love his I love his mentality. I just don't think the Lakers need it. I personally, if you're going to move on from Vanderbilt, Dalton Connect, and a first, which that's not much, But if you're going to move on from them, I would go ahead and get yourself a good defensive wing, a guy that you can actually just slap on any player that you need, rather than going and getting another center. Trae Young is a guy I think could move to a lot of places, and Phoenix is not one of the places that I would have guessed. To me, I thought, send him to the Raptors, send him to, because they need a guy that can be a lead guy, and I trust Trae Young more than Ja Morant, and he has the spacing that doesn't mess a lot of things up for them. And then also Trae Young to the Magic for the same reason. Get him an elite playmaker over there, get Paolo and Franz an elite playmaker, and then you get this offensive engine of a player who kind of just solves a lot of the issues you're dealing with right now. But they're saying Phoenix Suns, they move Jalen Green, Nick Richards, Richard Fleming, or whatever you call that, and then a first and a second. Trae Young is having a rough start to the season, dealing with a lot of injuries and a lot of inefficiencies. He's not looking like the same player, and I personally feel like that's more because injuries and stuff like that. I think that'll change. You don't give up too much. You give up Nick Richards, who's a quality backup center. Jalen Green hasn't gotten to play for you much because of injuries, but he's looked good when he's played for you. You kind of get a guy, a guy that's shown he can be more of an offensive engine, which I like, but I do think it mucks up that defensive mentality that you've been having. Trae Young is the embodiment of a chip on his shoulder for some reason. But I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily love this move. I just think it's good. But you don't become a contender or anything from it. I think the Magic become a contender from it. The Toronto Raptors, I think, become a really good playoff team rather than just this mediocre playoff team. There are other teams that I think would benefit a lot more from a Trae Young. Domantas Sabonis, I thought he would be on this list, as many people would. Domantas Sabonis, Sacramento needs to blow it up. They are really becoming the Bulls of the West and I do say the Bulls of the West for a few reasons, because they are better than the Bulls of the East. Well, than the Bulls of the East were. But they're so mid, and they're honestly, you can't be mid in the West, because if you're mid in the West, you are trash. They would be a solid East team. They would probably be considered interesting in the East. I don't know where this team lands, blah, 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 as far as contender and stuff. But they are just not what you want in the West. I love Zach LaVine so much. I love DeMar DeRozan. When he was a Spur, he was my playmaking boy. I loved him. He was like a 6-assist guy on top of being a great mid-range scorer. He was so much more complete, on the Spurs, but he has just divulged into this isolation mid-range player that's just bleh. And Domantas Sabonis, they're saying to the Warriors, which I actually love, and the haul that they get for him, it's kind of Kingsy because you do get Jonathan Kuminga, who is just not great, but you get Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, Buddy Hield comes back. He had some good years there. Trace Jackson Davis I like, and then a top 5 protected first. I think that's solid. That's solid for both sides. It's a little bit much for Sabonis because I don't think he's all that great, but you would get a really interesting chemistry with him and Steph Curry, him and Pods even, and him and Jimmy could even have an interesting. I think Domantas Sabonis could unlock his pick and pop game here in Golden State, which would be so fun. But yeah, overall, this one's not a bad trade. This one's not too bad. Number 4, LaMelo Ball, my guy. Okay, so they're saying Wizards. I think that's a terrible idea because the Wizards are just the Charlotte Hornets of the East. They're not. It makes no sense for you to go and. Well, okay, what am I talking about? Charlotte is in the East. Oh, that's a blonde moment. It would just be the same situation, different jersey for LaMelo, because I don't think you get any structure surrounding you. Now, I do think the pairing of him and Alex Sarr would be super fun. And there's some athletic wings on there that would pair nicely with LaMelo Ball. But, this haul is not bad. It's Bub Carrington. It's, second. It looks like a couple first and 2 seconds. But my dream for LaMelo Ball is that he would be a Utah Jazz player, because I think that the Utah Jazz's offense would perfectly hone the raw talent and the raw feel for the game that LaMelo has. I think that it would be an extremely interesting pairing, because you get LaMelo coming into a system where it maximizes his strengths as a three-point shooter, as especially kind of a very creative mind, and then also you surround him with impressive play finishers, guys that have that have extremely high defensive upside, and I think that you get a guy that can be probably the perfect co-star. And when I say co-star, is them playing off of each other would actually increase each of their individual ability and value to a team. I think that they could be co-stars together because of their complementary skill sets. So LaMelo Ball, I just think, is a phenomenal pick for the Utah Jazz. I think that they have the players and the contracts to match it up. I actually looked, and I don't know how the CBA really works yet, but I don't think either of these teams are in much fear of it. You got you've got the contracts, you've got the young talent, and you probably wouldn't have to give up too much of that because LaMelo Ball is having a down season. So ultimately, I think that the Utah Jazz would be my pick for LaMelo Ball, and I think there's a path for that to happen. Then we've also got Trey Murphy. Trey Murphy is the most, put him on any team, he's going to be great. He's going to make them better. Very solid defender, great play finisher, impressive athlete, great three-point shooter. He's just absolutely phenomenal. And who are they saying gets him? Yes! Oh, I would love this. Depending on who they send, I would absolutely love this. I'm a San Antonio Spurs fan. I'm from Texas. And I was a Spurs fan when Jeremy Sochan, before the Wemby era and everything. I just talked about DeMar DeRozan and all that. I would love this pairing. I think this is a great long-term pairing. I think that Trey Murphy would thrive as a Spur, he kind of reminds me of Harrison Barnes' mentality or personality almost, just a super chill guy, gets shit done. I just love what Trey Murphy brings to the court, and if he was paired next to Wemby, that would be beautiful. I don't love that they're saying to give up Carter Bryant in this. Jeremy Sochan I love. In my normal setup, I have a Jeremy Sochan jersey right over here, so I'd be sad, but he is honestly a clunky fit on the Spurs, so as long as we don't put Carter Bryant in this, the rest is fine to me. A couple of picks, we have too many anyways. And he just brings some much-needed shooting, play finishing, and honestly, a low-maintenance, high-volume scorer. I love it. And Keldon Johnson, it's time for him to move on as well. So, yeah, I love that. I love that for the Spurs. Oh, gosh. Okay, there's the big boy himself, Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis, man. Oh, gosh. This is such a This is such a Chicago Bulls move. Kobe White, Kevin Huerter, Zach Collins, and a first-round pick, and 2 first-round picks. Oh my God! Anthony Davis has a big mixed value surrounding him. You could say that it's the roster he's on, and maybe the Bulls, they have a lot more shooting, a lot more playmaking on that roster. So, maybe you could see a world where Anthony Davis is kind of unlocked on the Bulls and can get back to, and he's a Chicago native, I'm pretty sure. So there'd kind of be a story to it that would be interesting. But from what I've seen from Bulls creators is that they're not super interested in this, just because we get this superstar it's kind of hard to say that he's getting up there in age with his injuries and stuff. But yeah. I've heard people say, I don't know if I want to deal with the injuries that are involved with him. And although this looks like a good deal for the Mavs, they get a couple picks, they get a shooting and playmaking and stuff like that, which would be great for Cooper Flagg. I just don't see this being great for the Bulls because you're getting this boomer bust situation, and you have a franchise and a fan base that is just so tired of the bust because it seems like everything goes bust when it goes Bulls, and that's just super unfortunate. I lived in Chicago for a year, so they're kind of my secondary team. I love the Bulls. I love the history there. I love the city of Chicago. It's just, and this I think would just be crippling. If he goes there, he gets injured, and that's the story, and it's just pain for Chicago Bulls fans. And it'd be pain for me, but I've got Wembanyama, so it wouldn't be that hurtful. And honestly, Anthony Davis was kind of Wemby before Wemby. I remember him in NOLA, man. He was blocking everybody's shots. He was that guy that was getting triple doubles and blocks before Wemby made it a nightly thing, you know? And yeah, I don't know. I love Anthony Davis. I love the Bulls. I think it would be just demoralizing for both parties. He may retire a Bull if he continues the track he's been on, but I don't know. The Bulls aren't giving up too much, but honestly, I feel like they just need to buy into being bad and try to get one of these like top prospects that have been coming out. But anyways, who's the big boy who's the last guy we got? Oh my gosh. I was just talking about the Jazz and how I wanted to keep it all going together and get LaMelo and become such an interesting superstar duo over here. Especially because Lauri Markkanen's having a 30-point-a-game season and stuff like that. Super efficient. He's really bounced back. Like, he's looked like, oh, I'm playing up to my contract. Y'all can stop talking trash. Like, oh my gosh. Lauri Markkanen? Oh. Okay, at least it's to the Pistons. I was going to make a Pistons video, but a week ago, I got super sick. So I wasn't able to do it, and then they got their loss and stuff. I'll still make a Pistons video because I love the Pistons. I think they've been doing awesome. I love Cade Cunningham. Jalen Duren is so tough, bro. Lauri Markkanen would fit on there super well. It's just, I think the Jazz are going to keep him. There's a ton of memes as to why they might keep him in the state of Utah, but ultimately, I love the idea of him staying, and just let's try to not build around him, continue our egalitarian approach, but bring in somebody who can like sew it all together. And I think that it would be best if it was a combo guard or a playmaking heavy guard. And that's why I'm a big LaMelo fan. Now they're saying Tobias Harris, Jaden Ivey, Ron Holland, and 2 firsts. The only thing that's interesting that are the 2 firsts, because Tobias Harris is pretty washed at this point. Over his tenure in Detroit, his 3-point shot's been going down, which has been very unfortunate. And then Jaden Ivey is an interesting combo guard. It's just you've already got what's his name? You've already got Keontae George, who does a lot of the same things and who's having his best season yet. And then you've got Isaiah Collier, who's this really good slashing playmaking guard, who I don't want to take up minutes by getting Jaden Ivey, who's just not good enough or great enough to transcend into something else. So, and Ron Holland's been having a really rough start to his career, so I don't know if I want to deal with that, especially when I have Ace Bailey, who has to he needs those wing minutes. They've already got enough very fun, interesting young wings. So I think the Jazz just need to stand pat and get LaMelo Ball. And so I think I got cut off there, but basically I was just saying I think the Jazz need to stand pat. I really enjoyed a lot of the trades that we got to see in this article, and I just love NBA trades in general. I would love it if y'all would just go down below, tell me your favorite trade, tell me if you liked any of the trades out here, and let me know what's a trade that you want your team to make. Now with that said, I've just really enjoyed chatting with y'all, and I'd love to continue chatting with y'all in the comments, so I'll see y'all down there. Later. Peace.
Thinking of her.